sitting down with Kim Sowemimo, who is a co-founder of Black Pharma and also acts as the operations lead within the leadership team of the initiative. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you. I feel so honoured to be here today.
We're so honoured to have you. We're honoured to have you.
Thank you.
All right, so I think, it probably makes sense for us to get into it.
Yeah, let's get cracking.
Okay, cool. All right, so I've given you a brief intro, but in your own words, tell us about yourself.
Okay, sure. Do you know what? I always find it weird when people ask me this question. I feel like a deer in the headlights. I'm like, wait, who am I? But okay, it's interesting because I feel like whenever people ask this question, people automatically start off by saying their job, like, oh, I'm this, and this is what I do. But I feel like I'm gonna put a different spin on it today. Okay. So my name is Kim Sowemimo. Most people know me as that. But who am I? What am I about? So I think, at the core of who I am, I'm really passionate about purpose and people discovering their purpose. I feel like everyone is unique and individual, and they have a unique set of skills and talents, which once discovered can make a real impact in this world. So I feel like at the core of who I am, I'm really passionate about helping people basically realize their potential and discover what they're passionate about. So because of that, I feel like it's manifested in itself in different ways throughout my life. Okay. So over the past, probably over 10 years now, I've taken part in lots of different initiatives and groups and charities which really work with young people, especially people from disadvantaged backgrounds, in helping them raise their aspirations, discover their basically potential, and help them achieve their goals in life. So I would say at the core of what motivates me and drives me in life, it's really centered around helping people basically discover themselves and understand what they're passionate about and what their purpose is. So that's a really long way to kind of read into Black Pharma because obviously, well, not obviously to our audience, but I work within the pharmaceutical industry. Yeah. And obviously being a woman of colour, I'm really passionate about racial equity. So working in the pharmaceutical industry and kind of trying to bring my passions into that is basically how Black Pharma came about. So I'm sure you're going to ask me what Black Pharma is all about, so I won't say anything more on that, and I'll wait for you to get to the next question.
No, it's okay. I mean, that's a really kind of broad overview into your background and your way of thinking and your way of looking at life, which is really interesting to learn about because it feeds, I'm sure, into Black Pharma. Yes. So as you correctly anticipated, how would you describe what Black Pharma is all about? Tell us about Black Pharma.
Yeah, so Black Pharma is all about increasing the representation of Black professionals within the pharmaceutical industry. And I mean, when you break that down, it can mean a lot of different things. But as an organisation, we have two pillars, which is create access and enable success. Okay. So creating access is all about opening up the industry to young Black people, and also people who are further along in their career but are seeking to break into the pharmaceutical industry. So it's not just about early talent but also experienced professionals. Okay. It's about raising awareness on the wide breadth of different roles and skill sets that are relevant to the industry, and helping people gain internships, work experience, understanding what skills and experience they need to break into the industry. And so it's all about kind of what it says on the tin, creating access, opening up the door for more people of colour to come into the industry. So that's create access. And there's a whole bunch of different services that we run that sit under the create access bucket. But enable success is the second pillar of our organisation, because we don't want a situation whereby people come into the industry and are not able to progress, right? Okay. one thing we really are passionate about seeing is representation in senior levels of organizations within the pharmaceutical industry. So we are really passionate about, helping people upskill and progress their career once they get into the pharmaceutical industry. So it goes back to that whole realizing your potential and having opportunities for growth and development. So we see representation not just in entry-level roles, but also in more senior management and leadership roles within the industry. So enabling success is about helping people progress their career once they're in pharma.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really well-rounded overview. So just a bit more on that. How is it that you help people to get into those sort of more senior level roles? Is it only for people you've helped kind of get into the industry and then kind of giving them sort of that career trajectory over time? Or is it more for people who are already in industry, who've been in their roles for a while but maybe need to upskill? How do you kind of open those doors and enable access for those people in terms of success?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I would say enable success, and there's different elements of that sort of pillar, and there's different services that we roll out as part of that. A big element of this is mentoring. So we are huge advocates of professional mentoring, and not just from our own personal experiences. We because I think probably each of us on the leadership team have benefited from mentoring relationships because they really make an impact in helping you progress your career. So we're really passionate about helping connect people with more experienced senior professionals within the industry to help encourage them and help them understand how they can progress their career and increase their development professionally and personally. So we have a mentorship program, which is a big part of what we do. But we're also really passionate about training and upskilling. So we're currently exploring different avenues in which we can actually help equip people in a more technical way for them to have the skills that they need to progress into more senior roles. So it could also be soft skills, like networking, how to communicate effectively. It really does cover a breadth of different things. And a big part of also what we do is just general networking. We try to host networking events with leadership teams within pharmaceutical companies, because I think growing your network is a big part of how you progress in your career as well. So
and I think you'll see that in every kind of industry. That networking relationships is so key.
I completely agree.
No, that's really interesting. Okay, so just we've got an idea about Black Pharma. What I'd love to hear more about is who else is involved and what their roles look like. Because I understand you're a co-founder, you're also within the leadership team, so there are other people working with you.
Yes, exactly. So we have 4 members of our leadership team at Black Pharma and 3 co-founders and a founding member. And it's obviously a professional relationship because we are working on Black Pharma together to build this organisation, but it's also a really personal one. We met each other in our career journeys. We're all friends, and in a sense Black Pharma is kind of a passion project, but it's more than a project, but we're also passionate about it, so we're so heavily invested, and it's a wonderful dynamic actually to be doing something so impactful with people that you know and love on a personal level, but also within this professional context as well. So we have 4 members of our leadership team, and we also have a really fast-growing volunteer team as well, and really fantastic people who have volunteered their time, expertise, experience to basically feed into this passion because they believe in it as well. So we have a team of, I think, 13 volunteers now. And it's covering different aspects of the organisation, so we have different departments, so it's really great.
That's awesome. I mean, 13 volunteers.
So
on their own time.
On their own time.
Because they're passionate about it. And how did you build that base? Was it people reaching out? Or?
It was a combination of things, So we've had distinct roles that we've needed to fill as part of what we're doing as an organisation. So we put ads out. Some of us just reached out to people that we knew in our own network and thought, actually, this person would be great to be a part of the team. And a couple of people actually just randomly emailed us and say, hey, I came across your organisation, I love what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
I would love to volunteer in some capacity. Let me know how I can help, which is amazing. Like, we didn't even like reach out. It's literally people seeing what we're doing, seeing the impact we're making, and wanting to be a part of that, which is really lovely.
No, it's awesome because it means that you don't have to try and sell them on staying. You know that they'll put the work in.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really important, especially when you
Yeah.
have like key deadlines and things you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like you said, it really makes a difference when you have people on your team who are equally passionate about what you're doing,
Yeah.
especially in a voluntary role. It's actually a very selfless thing to do, to, you know, take time out of your already very busy schedule to help other people that you don't know, literally perfect strangers, and you know, you're really just so committed to seeing a change in the space that you're willing to do that, which is lovely. So yeah, really great people.
Okay. All right, no, that's awesome. It's really interesting to hear about, and I mean, hopefully at some point we might be able to speak to some of those people.
I think that would be awesome.
Definitely. Okay, so I mean, I understand that you're a co-founder of Black Pharma. You've kind of touched on this earlier on about kind of how things started and how your own passions played into the creation of Black Pharma. But I understand that there are other co-founders as well. So it'd be interesting to understand why Black Pharma was started and how, you know, kind of inception, the conception of the vision, and how it's all come together. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I would say like each of us on a leadership team have had our own very personal experiences being, I mean, we're all women, women of colour, Black women specifically in the industry. And I think we have a lot of shared experiences that fed into us coming together to start this organisation. But I think from a personal level, you know, starting off, I think just generally within a scientific field. So I did my undergrad in pharmacology at the University of Leeds. So I remember being in lectures at uni and just literally massive lecture room, and there were maybe like 2 other Black people, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. I mean, maybe because I was in Leeds, which is like really up north, which at the time wasn't the most diverse city back then, but actually I think in recent years it's become way more diverse. But I remember going to uni and just feeling like, not a lot of Black people in here. But so yeah, literally in the lecture hall and not seeing diversity even that early on. And then also transitioning into the industry. And when I graduated and got, thank God, my first graduate role, I was in a cohort of graduates that they'd taken into, you know, a very specific role. And again, being the only Black girl. And I just had so many experiences that made me feel like, I really wish there were more people like me in this space. And at times it was very isolating because, I mean, being the only person of a certain race within any environment just has its own challenges for various reasons. So I just, even like in everyday life, I never really saw people that looked like me. So I think on my whole career journey, there were so many instances where I was like, I wish there was a community of other people that looked like me in this field. And I just always had that desire. And I remember when I transitioned into other roles further on in my career, I did start to encounter more people, Black people, Black males, females. And one of the things that really stood out to me was this frustration that many of us had about opportunities and access to opportunities to progress our career. I know I've spoken to many young people who've said, you know, I really want to transition into this role, but I'm not given the opportunity. I'm trying to sell myself. I've tried to apply, and you know, I can't get through to an interview stage. And I've had so many meetings where I've sat with people and said, okay, let me see your CV. Let's talk through your CV. Let's think about how you should connect with the hiring manager and express your interest. How about you set up a meeting with them and actually trying to coach them along this whole journey of trying to develop and, you know, get a promotion. And for me, I just kept seeing that need throughout my whole journey. And it kind of just turned into, okay, how can I formalize this? So for me, Black Pharma really was an opportunity to continue to do what I was doing and helping people be able to excel in their career, but to do it on a bigger scale and to make more of an impact. And obviously I had met some amazing people along my career journey who were also reaching out and helping people who are earlier on in their career to, you know, progress and succeed and develop. So we basically came together and said, hey, how can we formalize this? How can we build something that would really make an impact in this industry and be effectively a change maker and draw more Black talent into this industry? Because basically an industry's workforce should be as diverse as the people it serves, right? Yeah. So we were like, how can we bring more Black diversity into this industry and just help it thrive? So that's what we did, and that's a very general overview of how Black Pharma started.
No, I mean, yeah, it kind of covers sort of what your perspective was in terms of how you felt about, you know, growing up and being in university, and, you know, your own feelings, and then how you kind of networked. And so I think it kind of starts off with yourself and then covers how you can do with others who related to that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it, because I think the journey to Black Pharma has been a very personal journey for each of us.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, like I said earlier, it's almost like a passion project, because it's so tied to our own personal experiences and wanting to use that for good. Basically, like, turn something that was a challenge for us and turn it into a positive change in the industry. So I think that would probably be a common theme, I would say, for all of us on the team, to be honest. It's just our stories, each of our stories might look a little bit different.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, you hear that when it comes to purpose, it's usually birthed out of pain, or you know, seeing something that's a problem and feeling really passionate about it and wanting to now make a change. So it's really incredible to hear that that's something that you all each individually felt, and you came together as a force to kind of enable that change and that representation. So that's awesome. So I'm really keen to know how long Black Pharma has been in action. Like, you know, how long have you guys been doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, we officially launched in August 2020. So we're not even 2 years old yet, but we came together, I'd say the LT, the co-founders, we came together, I think, around November 2019, and that's when we started to put pen to paper and think, okay, what can we actually do? Like, what are we trying to achieve, and what could that potentially look like? So it was I would say it was a bit of a slow burner, but we were very committed to delivering on it. I think it was challenging, you know, having lives and full-time jobs and other things going on in your life, to bring something like this to life. But it was, we were really committed to it, and obviously early 2020 when the George Floyd incident happened, and that, I think, was just a massive catalyst, not just for us personally, but around the world, in every sphere of, you know, society, and I think in very many industries. And I think similarly for the pharmaceutical industry, it made people sit up and think, hey, what's going on around racial equity in our industry? So in a sense, out of that horrendous tragedy, it created a platform which we could leverage to actually bring about change. So so we officially launched in August 2020.
No, that's really interesting. I mean, you said you started putting pen to paper in like 2019, and then August 2020 you launched. It's incredible. Sometimes it takes that time to really kind of refine the ideas. I think for the nature of what you're trying to do. You know, it's not something you just kind of rush into.
Exactly that, and I think it was about really trying to understand what we could commit to. Also having full-time jobs and other things going on in our lives, and think, okay, what is the pace we can work at to be able to create something that is meaningful, but also sustainable. So I think that was something we wanted to achieve right at the bat, and to be perfectly honest, it's still an ongoing balancing act. But that's what I'd say about it.
No, that's That's really interesting. Okay, perfect. So I want to talk a bit more about your faith.
Yes.
I know your faith is important to you.
Yes.
Faith is important to me too. Faith in God specifically. So talk me through your faith in God and how that's played a role in Black Pharma.
Yes. So for any listeners who might be wondering, so I'm a Christian, which I know you are as well. So I believe in Jesus. So yeah, my faith is I was going to say my faith is a huge part of my life, but to be honest, it's everything about my life. Like everything I do and am basically flows out from what I believe, like my faith in Jesus. Not to say that I am at all a perfect human being. I will definitely make that clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a big part of my life. So how it plays into Black Pharma is interesting because I think so obviously at the start of our chat today, I talked about purpose and helping people discover, what their talents are.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that belief really originates from my faith in God and the fact that I believe that He's created each individual human being with a very unique set of skills and talents and personality traits and characteristics, and I think it's such a beautiful thing. So that whole sense of helping people realize and achieve their potential is a big part of why Black Pharma is important to me.
Okay.
Because I want people to be able to do that in not just in their personal lives but also within a professional setting, to feel to get that sense of achievement in the workplace. So for me, how my faith and Black Pharma come together is in essence trying to glorify God and His love and His heart for people in helping them realize and discover just how amazing they are in the context of, hey, you're interested in sciences. Hey, did you know you could really thrive in the pharmaceutical industry?
Mm-hmm.
Let me talk you through how you can discover what you're great at and what this means for you potentially having a career in this industry. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how the two marry together. And I would say hand in heart, in just, the year and a half or so that Black Pharma has been in existence, in no way whatsoever do I feel like we could have got here without the grace of God. I feel like He's just been all over this and we've done so much, achieved so much. Sometimes it blows me away. I feel so, I'm just okay, just little on me. Obviously, it's got, me aside, I think the team are amazing. Sometimes I just marvel at how amazing the people I work with are because they're so talented. But I just think God's been so faithful in bringing us here and doing so much. And it's a privilege to be used by God in that sense to make such a huge impact in so many people's lives. It's in that sense, it's really rewarding to me, and I think I kind of see it as just being a vessel of God's love to people, and just not necessarily directly, but indirectly trying to show them the love of Christ by loving them in this way. So yeah, that's how the two kind of come together.
Yeah, no, that's a really you've covered it quite well. I would say, I think even just talking about people's lives and what they're doing in their day-to-day and their work, that's quite an important part of people's lives. So to hear you talk about how you want to unlock talents and things that people can do better within their day-to-day and their work, it just enriches their lives. It's quite incredible to hear that that's what you're trying to do and you're trying to achieve. So yeah, it's interesting. I think, can you give some examples of how you've seen God move within Black Pharma, kind of just giving you pace within what you're doing? Yeah,
I would say one of the biggest ways is the people He's brought into the organisation, like our volunteers, because like I said, I think the people on our team are fantastic and so talented, but even I guess prior to that, just the leadership team bringing us together, because the way one thing I've really appreciated in all of this is the strengths of the people I work with, because there are things that I know I do well at, and there's things I definitely do not do well at.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I'm okay with not being great at everything, because not everyone's great at everything. But that the ladies I work with, they're amazing at things that I'm not so great at. So we really depend on each other, and that like cohesion just works so well. So I would say definitely in the people God has brought together to form our team, but also in the opportunities we've had. Like, we've worked and collaborated with huge, you know, organizations and employers within the pharmaceutical industry, and sometimes I'm a bit gobsmacked, like, oh wow, it's so fantastic that these organizations are recognizing that what we're doing is crucially important and are willing to contribute to that and to actually support diversity and, you know, drawing Black talent into the industry. And I really see that as entirely God's grace. So I would say definitely the people, but also the opportunities. And also actually the delivery, like what we've actually been able to achieve is just God's grace in itself. So yeah, I would say each of those three things.
Okay, no, I remember going on your website just on the point of delivery, and I was like, wow, this is so professional.
Thank you.
So it's better than a lot of websites, and I've worked in digital experience. And you know, it's interesting because you ladies made it yourself. You didn't get any designer, you didn't kind of outsource.
It was a learning curve, I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. It's so kind of well done. You know? So it's just incredible how God's hand in something can make it brilliant, make it excellent, make it even better than industry standards, and it's not necessarily something that, you know, you had someone coming in to do.
Yeah, or we were trained in, exactly that. And I love that you said excellence, because I think that's something that we're really, you know, we're really committed to wanting to deliver excellence. In effect, we want what we do to be excellent. So thank you for saying that.
I mean, I feel like with God in it, it could only be excellent, you know. He just makes things beautiful, makes things brilliant, makes things shine.
Yeah.
And I just love how you're talking about the fact that God's hand in it has really accelerated it, you know.
For sure.
That's brilliant. Okay, so how would you describe Black Pharma right now, where it is, in terms of milestones and growth?
Great question. I would say we have grown probably more than I thought we would in such a short amount of time. We're still a startup because, you know, we only launched less than 2 years ago. So I think we're really in a stage in the business where we're thinking, okay, long term, how can we remain impactful but also sustainable, which, like I said, that was our goal to start off with. But as we've grown so much, and also thinking about just our capacities, also still having full-time jobs, it's thinking about, okay, how can we continue to ensure that this organization is sustainable, just, you know, indefinitely. So we're in that sort of, still in the startup, but that sort of maturing the business model, maturing our operational strategy, and, you know, our deliverables and objectives, and so still in that kind of early stages, but definitely on the road to, you know, maturity and really being more established.
Okay, are there any kind of key milestones that you can identify in terms of production?
Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest things for us was our community.
Okay.
So we have obviously different ways in which we measure, you know, the size of our community. We have direct memberships through our website, but we also have like our LinkedIn community as well. So I think across the full sphere of Black Pharma community, we have over 3,000 members, which is a huge milestone. Yeah, it's amazing. But what I really, really love about that is the diversity of the members. So obviously, our, you know, vision has always been to address the underrepresentation of Black professionals within the industry, because that's where we saw there was the greatest need. So we are unapologetic about that. But what I've really loved is that our membership actually is full of lots of different races. We have people from all backgrounds, Asian, Caucasian, and, you know, obviously Black people, and lots of different races. And it's amazing. I love it. I just love that people are, you know, invested in what we're trying to achieve, and we want to welcome people from all backgrounds and ages. We have students, experienced professionals, recent graduates, veterans. Like, it's so diverse, and I really love that about it.
Okay. Yeah, so your milestone specifically is in terms of the development of the community and
Yeah.
how that's flourished and diversified. That's, because the more people you reach, they can reach people just like them who fit within their profiles, and kind of spreading the message and what you're trying to do. Okay, right, so I think just looking at, you touched on in terms of sustainability, what drives you all to keep going and keep working on moving Black Pharma forward to achieve the purposes of the enterprise? Because, you know, it's one thing to start something and to kind of maintain it for a while, but to kind of keep going for the long haul, that why has to be very, you know, deep-seated. It has to be very kind of meaningful. It has to be very, you have to know that the reason you're doing it is greater than you, and essentially as a woman of faith, you know, something that God has sent you to do and that He sustains you and refreshes you. So I'd love to know more about what's kept you ladies going in this amount of time, and what keeps you going even to go forward and push this forward?
Yeah, so I would say, like, I'm sure anyone who has either started up an organization or a business or has their own side hustle, I'm sure everyone can relate that it definitely has its highs and its lows. Like, it's never really fully just like an upward trajectory, as much as I'm sure we'd all love that it was. What I would say has been a motivator for me is actually seeing the impact, like connecting with the people that we're supporting and helping, especially if it's someone like, we've had so many stories of people who've been like, hey, I've been really trying to break into the industry, I've sent so many applications, no one's given me an opportunity, I'm feeling really discouraged, and we're like, okay, let's connect with you, let's see how we can basically turn this around with you. And it's basically like the way I see it, it's really interesting, because this is how like faith comes into play here. Because in my relationship, in my faith and in my relationship with Jesus, like as I live my life, the way I like visualize like my relationship with God is that He literally comes alongside me and helps me through the difficult seasons in life, like literally like, hold my hand, let's go. And for me, whenever I, you know, support our Black Pharma members, that's how I see it. Like, okay, I'm gonna come alongside you and let's go on this journey together. Like, I'm not just gonna be like, okay, cool, sorry, it's not really working out. But literally like, okay, let's work through this and let's try and get you to the other end of this. So it's really like, for me, like drawing parallels to the love of Christ in my life and how much of a difference that's made to me, and trying to be that for someone else and come alongside them within this context. So whenever we hear like success stories and people coming back to us saying, yes, I got the job, or oh my gosh, I had this breakthrough, it's so incredibly rewarding, and that really inspires me to keep going. And there are times where I'm completely exhausted because I have a full-time job, but it's all about re-energizing. And actually, to be honest, I find my team really re-energizing as well, because we support each other in the sense that when we recognize that one of us, needs a break, we're like, okay, take a break, refresh. We've got you covered for this period of time, and we've done that for each other, and that is so needed. And it gives you that break to take some time to do a bit of self-love, personal care, re-energize, and then come back at it again. So I find that the team as well helps me stay motivated overall.
And just on that, actually, even having that group, that kind of group foundation is really useful, because you're able to lean on each other. As you mentioned, if you're doing something by yourself, it's a bit trickier. You might want to, you might want to have to reach out to people who are doing things like you, but they're not necessarily in the same initiative. They don't have the same commitment to what exactly it is you're doing. having a group is definitely quite pivotal for
I think
when it's burnout and
it for sure helps. It definitely helps, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Right, so I want to ask you some questions on the challenges that Black Pharma have faced as well as productivity. So what's the biggest challenge that you're facing in Black Pharma right now, and how are you all tackling it?
So this is probably going to sound like a bit of a broken record, but it's just a recurrent theme. I think when you're trying to grow like an organisation such as Black Pharma or something else similar, whilst also having other responsibilities, as well as like a full-time job, which all of us do, it's very, very challenging to be able to figure out how to get that balance right, to help the organisation continue to grow while still doing everything else that you need to do in life. So I would definitely say for each of us, that's one of the biggest challenges, because we want the organisation to remain healthy and to continue to make an impact, which it has done up till now. We want that to continue. So I would say it's that getting that balance of not growing too quickly, that it becomes unsustainable, because it's just too much of a demand on our time and resources. So it's trying to help us continue to grow at a rate that's manageable for where we're at right now. And who knows what the future holds as far as like, you know, what commitment we'll be able to give to it. But for now, it's like we want to have a sustainable growth, because really, I feel like the organisation has capacity to grow incredibly rapidly, but we want it to be sustainable. So we're trying to make sure we're focused and have clear priorities for this year and for the future, but you know, really being very focused on what we're trying to achieve and ensuring that we can deliver that. So it's I think I probably said it a couple of times now, it's about sustainability. I think that's a big challenge, and it's not so straightforward to nail down. So it's that.
Okay, no, I think, you know, even just as you mentioned, kind of being a startup, essentially, that's something that a lot of startups face, especially when they initially experience a very rapid level of success.
Yeah.
You know, how can we maintain this? How can we sustain? So, you know, it's not a broken record. It's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
So, looking at productivity, what would you say is your favourite productivity hack as an entrepreneur?
Favourite? Okay, so I don't know if I'd say favourite, but one thing that I think I'm very cognizant of is being quick to turn plans into action. I feel like if we dwell too much on, you know, going over plans over and over and over again, there's this like lag, and it could take forever to actually execute anything. So one thing I'm always very conscious of doing, and don't get me wrong, like I think planning and doing your, you know, background and research is essential. Yeah. But one thing I'm also really, you know, keen on doing is let's also execute. So even if it's like small sprints, like let's get them done, because it's interesting because these small deliverables are actually also motivators. So they actually help increase and boost productivity, because, you know, especially when you have like a really big, you know, goal or project you're trying to deliver, it can be overwhelming. So the sooner you start to execute, the greater success you have, because I find that those little deliverables then boost your motivation, and you kind of get on a roll. You're like, okay, cool, let's keep this going, and you want to keep the momentum. So I would say for me, it's about trying to do like basically deliver as many like little like think what's your MVP, like what can we get done now, like okay, let's try to exactly so let's try to, it's kind of like agile, I guess, so I would say that's it for me, just because like I actually just find it motivating. I know personally, like if I have a huge thing that I have to do, like just, you know, for for example, if someone has like something on their heart that they, you know, that they want to do, or like a vision, I'd say, okay, set up your Instagram account, you know, just something small that that makes you feel like, okay, this thing's real now, like I've got something out there. Okay, now you've got your Instagram account, like start thinking about what your first post could be, or okay, think of a website name, or think of your logo. Just do little things that, you know, can help just move it along. So that's
growth. Yeah, there's little increments.
Yeah, they really do. And definitely. I think sometimes people get so overwhelmed with the bigger picture that it's so hard to move from vision to execution. So it's all about those little steps that make a big difference.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's example one productivity hack. I can relate with that. So at what time of day would you say that you get your best work done?
Okay, yeah. So anybody who knows me will tell you 100% that I am a night owl. Like, I wish I was a morning person, but I'm not. Like, my brain is like, where's my coffee in the morning? So like, I'm weirdly, I come alive. Like, it gets to 6 p.m. and I'm like, oh, I should start doing some work, like some Black Pharma work at the end of the day. Yeah, but like, it's weird. Like, I actually I like the quietness of nighttime, and it kind of just helps me focus. I feel like the world is quiet. I can just settle into what I'm doing and just, like, you know, focus in and zone in. So yeah, I'm one of those kind of oddballs that likes to work late and just and I get really stuck into things, and I feel like I've done some of my best work at night.
I mean, you know, when you kind of blossomed into the day, you've kind of gotten up, you've woken up, you started moving around, done your day job. Yeah. You know, you're already awake, you're wired, you're ready to go. And that has something to do with how you kind of now keep that momentum and actually work through the night. So when you get your sleep.
So I don't work through overnight. Okay. I think, okay, obviously, I have my day job and that's a priority for me, and delivering on that. So it's about how I can, throughout my day, have breaks where I can refresh and re-energize and change gears to think, okay, now my day job's done, how can I have a break? And then spend some hours on Black Pharma. So it's do you know, so I have a personal mentor, and one thing, I caught up with her towards the end of last year, and she was and actually that time I was feeling really burnt out, ironically, and she was you know, it's important to recognize what re-energizes you. And sometimes I feel like we're not very conscious about thinking that. We kind of maybe subconsciously know, or at the back of our minds, you know, okay, yeah, if I do this, I might, you know, perk up a bit. But it's so important to actually consciously take note of what energizes you and what helps you reset. And so that was something she said to me. She was like, you know, take note of how you actually re-energize and make time for that during the day. So that's something that I was like, okay, I'm going to try and do more of. So it's important to me throughout my day, especially trying to do Black Pharma, you know, outside of work, and not to get, you know, too burnt out and trying to. So I think for me, it's about getting those moments, you know, after my work day to refresh, re-energize, so that I can take some hours in the evening to do Black Pharma stuff.
And sustain it. Okay. All right then. In terms of ways of working within the team, and guiding Black Pharma towards business objectives and growth, I'm really interested, and I'm sure that our listeners and watchers are really interested to know how all of you within the leadership finalise important decisions. Because there's 4 voices here, you know, obviously you've all got different backgrounds, different expertise, different opinions. How do you come together to finalise decisions on the business, or the enterprise, should I say? I mean,
yeah, it's a great question. So we all have different parts of the business that we are ultimately accountable for. And that's what I love about it. So when we started Black Pharma, we really wanted to play to our strengths. So I'm a big believer in people playing to their strengths, because it's you get exponential, you know, productivity, because this is what you're great at. So we kind of took the time to really think about, what do we love doing, or what would we like to, you know, developing, and we all had areas where we thought, actually, I think I could take ownership of this. So we were like, okay, cool, this is what we are ultimately accountable for, this part of the business. So for each of us, we basically have final say for that part of it, but we do it in a kind of like in consultation with each other for big decisions, right? There's day-to-day stuff that we don't need to tell each other off, but for big like things that would impact the overall organization, we come together and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and we, you know, get feedback, give me your thoughts on it. And what I love is that we're actually very open to hear from each other, right? So even though I might be accountable for this space, like someone else might say, I don't really think that's gonna work, and I'll be like, okay, I can see what you mean, fine, let's change this up. So I think we're very respectful of each other's like opinions and value that. So within our own business areas, we each ultimately have accountability, and we do that in consultation with each other. For anything that that kind of spans all the business areas, and it's more like overall organization strategy, we do it basically like in consensus. So if majority feel like we think this is the best way to go, then we go with that. So, you know, 3 of them might say, actually, I think we should go this way. I'm like, okay, cool. Or vice versa, if someone else said that and the other 3 of us thought we could go the other way, then that's what we go with. Because I think ultimately we actually trust each other's judgment. So even though we might feel differently about stuff, we trust and, you know, say, okay, I'm happy to, you know, go with the majority here. And even if it's the wrong decision, or if we make mistakes along the way, honestly, it's perfectly fine. I think that's the thing. I think it's so important for any team to allow its team members room for mistakes, because that's just part of life.
It's healthy.
Exactly. And what I love about it, it's a safe space to make mistakes. Right? You don't feel like the world is ended. It works really well.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing from you, there's a fundamental kind of sense of respect and trust. So it really helps the cohesion in terms of decision making, and that's really quite important. So it's amazing that you guys have that, because sometimes it can take a lot of time, a long time even, to build, you know, such trust and respect for your fellow colleagues or people that you're working with to build something. I wanted to understand, do you actually have test and learn approaches? So maybe, so we all think this is the case, but one person is really strongly like believing that perhaps this isn't the way to go. Do you ever say, okay, for a month or 2 months we'll try this, see how it works, and then, you know, adapt? There's no kind of locked in.
That's definitely happened before, where we, you know, we might have differences in opinion, but ultimately, if like it's an area that someone else is accountable for, and, you know, they say, okay, if you really want to go for it that way, let's do it. And if we, after a while, figure out, actually, this isn't really working, then we'll revisit it. Or it might be working perfectly great, so great. So that also happens,
Okay. So moving on to talk to you more about your own experience and your background. So a bit more about your individual work within the industry, because I know that plays into how Black Pharma started. You know, you've obviously got your own background and expertise. Did you always want to be working within the pharmaceuticals industry? So tell us about your journey with that.
So yes and no. Actually, do you know what? It's funny. Like, whenever I hear a lot of people who work in pharma speak, I feel like a lot of us say, we kind of stumbled into this industry, to be honest. Literally. I feel like a lot of people kind of end up here, even though it might not have necessarily been their original plan. And that definitely was the case for me. Like, so when I was doing my A-levels, I was playing around with different options. Like, I did maths, economics, as well as like sciences. So I was like, oh, do I want to go into finance, or do I want to do like something scientific? And I was actually kind of torn in between the two. In the end, I actually decided I wanted to apply for medicine. Fortunately, I didn't get in, but I see it as a blessing in disguise. I decided to do a biomedical degree, so pharmacology specifically, and actually my plan was to do a postgraduate entry into medicine. But when I started my degree, I feel like there was one lecture in particular that I can't exactly remember what it was on, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I actually really like this. This is actually really interesting to me. And I was like, I might want to explore, where I could go with this as a career. And like, so somewhere along the course of my degree, I actually developed a passion for this industry. And thank God I had the opportunity to do a placement year after my second year within the industry. And that was such an incredibly rewarding experience because it just gave me exposure to the breadth of different roles and departments and functions that existed within the pharmaceutical industry, which you don't know about until you basically have exposure to it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. There's so much I can do. So thank God I finished my degree and I got my first graduate role into the industry. And yeah, it's just been, I guess, happy ever after since then. And what I actually really, really love about the pharmaceutical industry is the scope that there is for you to try different things.
Okay.
So I initially started off my career working within clinical research and within the UK, I guess, country level. And then I transitioned into a role which was a global role within quality and risk management. So that was looking at policy and process and how we're compliant with regulations, which is very different to what I had done previously. And it gave me that global context of working with different departments and different colleagues from different countries, and that was really great. And then I went back into clinical operations, and then I started doing work around product development within my organisation as a separate work stream. And there's just so much room to try different things, explore different parts of your skills and talents.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really love that about the industry. And I say this to people whenever I speak to them. I was like, it's okay to not really know 100% what you'd be great at. It's just about discovering what your skills are, finding something that you think, actually, I could do this. I think I'll be great at this. Giving it a go. If you don't like it, that's fine. Try something else. It's not 100% set in stone. If I start off on this career path, I have to do it forever. No.
Yeah.
You can change course. So I always encourage people to, explore things that are interesting to them, put their hand up for work streams and opportunities that come up at work, just to see what else they actually could be really great at in the workplace. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree on that. You don't always know everything you could do before you do it.
Exactly.
Sometimes you have to discover and explore and see, okay, this doesn't really work.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible that the pharmaceutical, I feel like I've used the word incredible a lot, but it is incredible that the pharmaceuticals industry is allowing that kind of flexibility, the different options. Because immediately upon me hearing pharmaceuticals, that isn't my industry. That's not my engineering technology.
Yeah.
So hearing it, I'm like, okay, I didn't know that there were so many different options.
Yeah, I know.
I just think of a test tube.
I know, and that honestly was also my impression of it before I got into it, because I remember when I was at uni, as much as I loved the theoretical side of my degree, I did not enjoy working in the labs. Oh my gosh, I hated it. Labs was just not my thing. And I was a bit is this what I'm going to have to do? Okay. But then when I did my placement year, I was like, whoa, no, I don't have to do that. There's so much more I can do. So there's literally such a wide scope of different opportunities within the industry, which is really great.
Okay. Right, well, I mean, we've covered a lot. I think your last answer actually just covered a lot of the questions I was going to ask you, which is really useful. I know that you mentioned that you have a mentor, but just catching up with you prior to this conversation, also understand that within Black Pharma you do a lot of mentoring. So how has your relationship with God influenced your approach to mentoring?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I think it ties back into what I fundamentally believe, right, about the uniqueness of each individual, and helping them recognize that and value that in themselves. I feel like sometimes people lack confidence because they don't really recognize what's so amazing about themselves, right? Or sometimes they're so used to comparing themselves to someone else that they don't really recognize, actually, that's okay, that's that person and they're wonderful, but did you know that you are also wonderful in all of these other ways? And it's really helping them understand that and just to kind of make the most of that. So I think that's how it ties into it for me, because I just think every person is just so unique and amazing, and because I believe each person is created by God and in the image of God and loved by God. So it's about treating them with that level of like love and respect, and helping them realize their worth, and helping them achieve their goals. So it becomes really personal for me, and I really put a lot of heart into it for that reason. And yeah, I would say that's how it comes into play.
Yeah, it's not just a tick box for you. It's more meaningful because it ties into your faith about how God created people uniquely, fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
And it's kind of honing their gifts and honing who they are. Yeah, I think that is probably the heart of what mentorship should be.
It should be, yeah.
Just when they see how I can mold this person.
Yeah, exactly.
Like taking an interest in them as a person. And what's on their heart and how that can grow. Okay. So I think to round off, I would say, you've spoken about sustainability within Black Pharma and for Black Pharma in the future. How significant do you think your work within Black Pharma plays into the bigger picture of your life? Because you are not just a co-founder of Black Pharma, you're a child of God, you're an employee at your job, you're a daughter of parents, you're different things to different people. So, how does it play into the bigger scheme of Kim Sowemimo and all that,
Oh, that's true. That's such an issue. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question before, so that's a really good question. So I think for me, like I said, like my faith is basically my whole life. At least that's what I want it to be.
Okay.
And I think I basically look at everything through the lens of that. And the way Black Pharma feeds into that is, I feel like I've said already, that God gives each of us a set of gifts and talents. And I think ultimately he gives us those gifts and talents to be a blessing to other people, right? So for me, Black Pharma is one of those like very amazing and meaningful ways in which I can use what God has given me ultimately to be a blessing to other people. So I would say that's how it comes into play in my life and like my faith. I'm trying to think what else I could say about it. I think that's probably the overall summary. It's just about, it's about thinking, I think it's really just about how can I be the greatest blessing to people that I can within the scope of my life.
Yeah.
And Black Pharma is a big part of that for me.
Okay, and just I guess a follow-on question: how long do you think it would be a big part of that for you?
That's a great question, and I honestly don't have an answer to that. I think
it's not a trick question.
No, and it's a very honest answer because, like I said, it's all about sustainability for us right now and thinking what's best for the organisation. And I think as it grows, the role we all play in that will evolve. Our volunteers, our leadership, as we delegate, as we grow, as we bring more people on board, what do we retain? It really is going to evolve with time. So I can't tell you exactly right now what, exactly the future long-term, organisation is going to look like as far as like what role we each play in it. But I think for me, ultimately, is just my priority is to think what's best for the organisation, and also, like, in a way, what is also best for my life as a person in terms of what I believe God's put me on earth to do.
Yeah, so even hearing about what you think Black Pharma, is in terms of its significance in the bigger picture of your life, I mean, just hearing you talk about it, I would say it's what's your assignment in this season. You don't have to be the same thing or do the same thing forever and ever and ever, because God remolds us. The Bible says that play in the potter's hands, the potter molds it as and when he wants to, and how he wants to for a particular reason or whatever he wants to do, and it's not to do with anyone's opinion or any kind of outer influence. It's to do with what the potter wants to do with that clay. And the clay cannot say, hey, actually, I've been very happy being a pot. Can I stay that way? God wants to make you do something else or show you something else that's in you. You know, you discover something else about you that would really impact people's lives. Let him do that. He can do whatever he pleases. And I'm sure it will just be as excellent for his glory. So, yeah, it's really interesting to hear that you've spoken about that in that way. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It has been actually a lot of fun. So see you next time.
You might be able to come back on. Why not? I mean, maybe even with one of your co-founders.
Yeah.
We can hear more about how things are going.
Yeah.
The operation model has changed. So
yeah,
I know they talk about sustainability. That was a buzzword for this
Yeah.
session, but it's been really insightful. You are our first Resolute women to actually come on here and talk about yourself and what you're doing. So
thank you.
It's quite an honour for you. And
Yes.
of course, we will be giving you, Resolute Women swag and some mementos and things just for you to kind of keep remember this moment. So
sounds amazing.
Thank you again.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you guys for taking the time to hear me chat.
Yes, thank you. And Resolute Women, we will see you again on March's segment of Resolute Stories. Thanks. Bye.